Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to DFW Homeowner YouTube channel. All right, so what are we doing today? Today we are figuring out how much we need to make in order to purchase a home in DeSoto. I almost got that one wrong. It is DeSoto, right? That's what we're prepping for.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
And the audio is working okay. So DeSoto, Texas, that is on the mind today. We're going to go into real estate prices. How much does it cost to buy a home in DeSoto? We're going to go into property taxes. We're going to go into what else are we going to do? We're going to look at interest rates. We're going to look at payments, how much it's going to cost you. Looking at how much salary you need to make at the end of the day is what we're going to ultimately achieve. So how much do we need to make in order to purchase a home in DeSoto? That is the mission and vision for today, the next about 40 minutes or so. That's what we're aiming for. So again, we're going to go into real estate prices. We're going to go into how to calculate the monthly mortgage payment. I'm going to show you what it ultimately breaks down to. But again, the main thing here is how much we need to make in order to purchase a home in DeSoto, Texas. That is what we're doing today. So as always, as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way. It's going to help us grow the channel. It's going to help distribute this video out to more people that need this information. So all that you're going to see today, all the links and all the calculators and everything in between is linked down in the description. So make sure you catch that on either on your way out or as you want to follow along. That also works as well. So let's get into this. Let's do this. We're off to the races. Here we are at Altos Research, which is where we start to get some real-time market data. So this gives you real estate market information that is current, not super outdated like you see with a lot of websites out there. So we're going to look at two quick things, well, three main things, but two quick things real quick. This week, the median list price for DeSoto was $475,000. So essentially that means that the properties that hit the market this week were on average $475,000. Now, when it comes to the market action index, that's essentially letting you know, is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market? If it's a buyer's market, that means that there's a lot of inventory out there where buyers have the leverage. That means that they can, get a little bit choosy, a little bit picky on the type of home that you're looking to get. Nothing wrong with that. Now, if it's a seller's market, that's the opposite. That means that there's not a lot of inventory out there, so it's the sellers that have the power, it's the sellers that have the leverage to where they can get picky and choosy with the type of buyers that they accept contracts from, right? So they don't have to accept a lot of favorable terms on the buyer side. On the contrary, again, the sellers have the power here. So as you can see here in DeSoto, it is still on the seller side. So DeSoto is in a market where you do have a minimal amount of new construction at this point because more and more of DeSoto gets built out every single day. So that's why you see it still more on the seller side of the equation. Now, if you go a little bit further south, where there's more new construction happening, then that's when you start seeing it get a little bit more towards a buyer's market, because at that point there's more inventory. It's not just resale homes, it's new construction that's bringing in some additional competition. That's generally what you're seeing. Now, the real reason that we're here in Altos Research, which again, this is linked down below, and you can do this analysis for every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which is exactly what we're doing with this series, where if you go back to the channel after you subscribe, you can see all the live streams that we've done. We've done Salina, we've done Corinth, we've done Benbrook, Azle, Mesquite, Dallas, South Lake, Coppell, Keller. We've done a lot of them, and we're going to do all of the ones in the DFW Metroplex. So if there's something that you're looking for, this is a channel. Don't forget to subscribe. The real reason that we're here is because of the market segments. I like how this particular website, which is free for you to navigate, gives the market segments, how it breaks it up into 4 different quadrants, which matches essentially the average price of the quadrant to the type of home that you can purchase. So as an example, if you're looking for a home that has about 4 beds or so and has over 2,500 square feet, well, this gives you, which although this right now is kind of the same, right? It gives you the averages, or it gives you the median price. So it matches inventory times matches inventory to the type of home that you're looking to purchase. So for our purposes today, we're going to go with the third quadrant. It's about $400,000. That'll give us over 2,000 square feet and it'll give us about 4 beds, 2.5 baths. So that's on average what we can expect. So when it comes to the math that we're going to do our calculation towards, it's going to be $399, which is essentially we're going to round up. We're going to go to $400,000. That's the number. That's the number that we're going to look for. So I have not reset this yet. So let me go in here and reset. Make sure that we're on the same wavelength. We're going to DeSoto, and it just so happens that DeSoto is the math going to be $400,000. So we're well on our way. All right, so that's all we need at this particular website for. We're going to X out of that. And before we get into the breakdown, remember, once you click on the link down below so you can get this max price calculator, which is going to do all the math for us, after we input some information that we bring to the table, aka our finances, and match it to what the real estate market is doing right now, it's going to produce a financial baby, which gives us a lot of different simulations, a lot of different numbers that we can use to make real estate decisions from. So make sure that you once you click on the link, make sure that you make a copy and save this particular file onto your Google Drive. You're not going to be able to adjust this particular version because this one's mine, or else it would just jack up everything. So make sure that once you have this link, just go to File, make a copy, and save it to your particular drive. That's the best way to do it. I mean, that's the only way to do it. Let me zoom in. Now, before we get into the actual calculation, I want to show you what the real estate in DeSoto even looks like. Oftentimes, whenever we're looking in a new market, or we're looking and managing hundreds of thousands of dollars and looking at some purchase that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, we can kind of get a little bit overwhelmed. We may not necessarily know, hey, what does this even look like? What does a $400,000 home look like? Well, I'm going to show you that today. We're just going to go to my website. We're going to go straight to DeSoto and look at the inventory that's available on the market right now. Let me take out all the other type of real estate and only leave single family. All right, so here, so you see where we're at. We're on the south part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So as you can see here, a lot of gray out here, a lot of gray. That means that it's gotten developed, right? So here, if you're looking for growth, or if you're looking for a market that might have a few more inventory homes or more new construction and a slightly less expensive, you're going to need to go to Red Oak. So essentially what DeSoto was doing about 5 to 10 years ago, that's where DeSoto is right now. And it's not stopping, folks. OV is actually one of my favorite spots, one of my favorite neighborhoods. In fact, we're doing a side quest real quick. This is actually one of my favorite neighborhoods of all time. Just a phenomenal looking neighborhood. But let's back up. This is what we're talking about. This is DeSoto, and I'm going to remove myself from the equation because I want to show you the actual real estate. We're going to spend about 20 seconds here, so we're not going to spend too much time. I just want to visually give you an idea of what we're even talking about. Oftentimes when we look at these numbers, it becomes unmanageable. So here we go, about $230,000. That is the lowest price home for sale right here, right now in DeSoto. And for it being the lowest price home, to be completely candid with you, it doesn't look bad, which there you go. Now you have 255. You have homes that were just listed and some that are reduced. So you have some homes, but take note of this. This is a little side quest again, but take note. Towards the bottom half of the prices in this particular city, notice that of the 8 listings that we just looked at, 4 of them actually had a price reduction. So it's not a case where you throw any inventory out there and it's going to automatically sell. You're looking at homes that are actually on the lower end, a lower priced on the market, and they're still having a reduction, right? So that's something to look at. So you have a lot of just listed and a lot of reduced. So that gives you a big an idea of where the market is right now when it comes to DeSoto. Little side tangent. So here we have at $300,000 is what we're starting out. Not starting out, I'm sorry. What $300,000 looks like. There's 2 milestones that we look at on these live streams. Again, we're not going to spend too much time here, but what I want to do is take opportunities when we're going through this. I want to share with you 2 milestones that we look at. Milestone number 1, at what price point, this is a shout out to all my investors out there, at what price point am I seeing investment properties in? So essentially here I just saw my first one, and it's pretty easy to identify once you start looking at properties with any interest. It's pretty easy to know which homes have been rehabbed. So here we have about 323 is where we start seeing some investment homes that have been rehabbed. That's a number that I look at just to see where the market is at. This is also what looks to be a rehabbed home. This is also a rehabbed home mostly. And again, how do I know? Well, if you have white paint out front, most of the time it's going to be a rehabbed home. And then of course, just a few modifications out there. So this one's not a rehabbed and all that fun stuff. But anyway, I share that because that's the first milestone that I look at. And this is from an investor's eye, right? So if we're looking and buying properties in the bottom of the market, which is typically what you would see a new construction at what price point am I seeing properties come back into the market after I've rehabbed them? So that's benchmark number one. So here I can see that if I'm taking lower or less expensive inventory and putting it back out onto the market as a whole, we're looking about putting it back into the market in the 330s, give or take. Now, of course, there's different price points, obviously, but again, that's the first absorption number that I look at. The second milestone, the second number that I look at is if there's new construction still in this city, at what price point do I start seeing that inventory? So here, this is the first one. So we're about $450,000. That's when I start seeing new construction hit the market in DeSoto. Now, again, DeSoto is not going to have a ton of new construction, but it is going to have some. And I want to see kind of what the price point happens to be in that particular. So we have about 485. So here for a new construction home, if you're looking for new construction, that's very sizable, folks. That's not bad at all. We're looking at about 460, 465. That's when we start seeing new construction kind of hit the mainstream here. And here you have a lot of homes that are still under 500,000. All right. So remember the math that we're doing though is around 400,000. That's what we're solving for. And the first 3 pages had plenty of them. All right, and then we're going to go to the higher end for my luxury people out there. I appreciate you too as well. So we'll help you into luxury as well. That is not a big issue for us. And you see most of the homes that are being sold on the higher price point are actually new construction. So, that looks like that must be near the lake or on the lakeside because DeSoto doesn't hit the lake. Cool. Awesome blossom. That is it. Let's get into some math. All right. So again, as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as well. We're going to get into some really fun math. This is math that we can do in any city that we're looking at. But the reason that we're going city by city is because every city is a little bit different from a price point for sure, but also property taxes. So I'm kind of leading the witness here. Property taxes is where we're going to spend a good amount of our time together. So again, these live streams generally last about 40 minutes, depending on how many side quests we go on. So we're going to keep it moving and growing. But as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Let's go. DeSoto, $400,000. That's what we're going towards. So whenever we purchase a home, you can purchase a home flat out 100% cash if you so choose. But very few people ever do that. What ends up happening a majority of the time is you are bringing money, certain cash to the table in the form of down payment. So essentially you're going to have a down payment and then you're going to finance the rest. Whatever you end up financing ends up being your mortgage. Right. So I know I'm starting from the very beginning, but some of us have different exposure to real estate. So I really want to catch everybody up as quickly as possible. So we're speaking the same language. So from a down payment perspective, depending on the loan that you get, you're going to have different minimums. So if, as an example, one of the most common loans that you're going to see out there is a conventional loan. With a conventional loan, the minimum down payment that you can put is 3% down. That's conventional. Now, there's another type of loan that's very common, especially in the first-time homebuyer community, is an FHA loan. The minimum down payment there is 3.5%. So conventional minimum is 3%. Conventional FHA is 3.5%. I think we're doing well so far. Now, when it comes to down payment, the other thing that I want to make note of is oftentimes, or you might have fallen into the same trap that I did whenever I first started, or before I started, because I made some bad investment decisions early on with real estate. I shouldn't say bad. They just were not optimized. I was actually just talking about that in my running club this morning on had I gone back in time and, purchased my first home in a different way, just financed it in a different way, I would still have that property as opposed to needing to sell in order for me to, keep achieving the goals that I was looking to do. But anyway, where I was going at before I went down a rabbit hole, one of the biggest myths out there is that you need 20% down to purchase a home. That is not a requirement. That's not a necessity. Where 20% comes from is essentially, think of it like a benchmark. If you do less than 20% down, so if you put less than 20% down payment, you're paying what's called mortgage insurance. So you're paying an additional, it's generally 0.5 to about 1% more per month. But you're paying mortgage insurance. You're paying an additional fee. Think of it as an additional rate that you're paying every single month until you get to 20%. So here we go again. If you do not do 20% down and you do less than 20% down, if you have a conventional loan, every single month and every single year that you're paying, once you get past that 20%, that mortgage insurance goes away. That's very cool. Now, let's do this same example with an FHA. The minimum down payment that you can do with an FHA is 3.5%. So you can start making payments until you're above 20%. Guess what happens? Nothing. Your mortgage insurance continues to stay in place because your mortgage insurance does not go away under an FHA loan, right? So those are two big distinctions that you need to have a conversation with your lender about, which they'll let you know, but it's important that whenever you're purchasing a property that you have some education on what you're about to do, because you can't count on the real estate agent to tell you everything, because either they might forget, they might not know, everyone comes with a different level of expertise and detail, or count on the lender to tell you everything. Very much the same thing, because everyone does their business a little bit different, right? So, and I say this because I'm a real estate agent. I say this with the trying to be respectful of my peers, if you will, but again, every real estate agent is different. And on average, just to give you some statistics out there from the real estate side, on average, if you look at per year, over 50% or right around 50% of the agents across the country only do one or no transactions per year. That's staggering, right? So in some cases, you might know a little bit more than the average real estate agent, which is, in a way, that's awesome for you, and in another way, it's terrifying for the real estate profession. Another tangent that we need to get back on pace. Interest rate. Let's keep going. So for our purposes today, we're going to go with 5% down. We're going to go with 5% down. That's a reasonable down payment. That's where a lot of folks that we end up working with end up starting with 5% down. This allows them to reduce the principal, aka how much they actually borrow from the bank, so their payments can be a little bit less. And that's where they feel comfortable with the down payment. Now, interest rate is something that's going to change daily. So depending on when you're watching this video, your interest rate is going to be different. So to give us a good ballpark, to give us a good estimate, we need to go over here to Google and type in mortgage interest rate today. And then here, we're going to do just a rough estimation. So we're going to say the loan amount's going to be about $400. We're going to do 5% down. It's going to be in Texas, and that our credit score is going to be good. It's going to say, well, it's going to be on par. So if we have an on par credit score of 720, you're looking at 7.346. Now, this is ultimately the number that we're going to go with this that we're going to use for this calculation today. So I'm going to go with 7.346. But what I want us to really appreciate here is, if you're 6 months out from purchasing, if you're a year out from purchasing, it's not too early to start. It's not too early to prepare. And one of the biggest ways that you can prepare is to really, really, really work your darnest on the credit score. So I want to show you an example. We actually just ran this in one of our buyer discovery calls with an incredible couple that's looking to purchase next year. They've been super proactive, super on top of the ball here, where their credit score right now is actually in a really, really good spot. But I want to show you what the difference would be if you're looking at an average credit score of 720 in terms of average of like purchasing, where their credit score was very, very high. We're going to say here, I think that's what it was, 780 or so. You see how big of a drop that is. It goes from 7.346 to 7.000, which is huge. It's huge when you're financing a home. And just depending on, and by the time they're ready to purchase next year, God willing, the interest rates are going to be even lower. So again, it's not too early to prepare. If you're looking to prepare, book a discovery call with us. We'd love to have this conversation. We'd love to run the same simulation with you and give you some different options on what to look for, or your game plan as you get ready to purchase. We'd love to do that with you. All right, so interest rate. So for our purposes today, we're assuming that we're purchasing today. So we're saying the interest rate that we could get on an average credit score at the moment is going to be about 7.35. How long is our mortgage? Most mortgages are going to be 30 years, although you can get them for 20 years, 15 years. You can even do a 40-year, which is your choice. But most loans right now are 30 years. Property tax rate. This is where we're going to have to park. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and pull over and park the car for a quick second, because we have to have a really good conversation about property taxes. I want us to really understand property taxes because they are different in every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. You might find yourself in a property tax of 1.8% over here, and then right down the road, just one house over, you could find yourself in another city where your property tax rate could be 2.5%. And that 1.8 to 2.5% is huge. It's miles apart. You're talking about different income levels at that point. Now, what are property taxes? Whenever you purchase a home, you're paying property taxes on the assessed value of that home. It doesn't matter if you purchase it in cash. It doesn't matter if you purchase it via a financing vehicle, essentially a loan. Does not matter. You're paying property taxes. So that's one thing to know. When you purchase the property, you're paying property taxes on top of that every single year that you own that property. Second thing to understand about property taxes, Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the country. I'll say that again. Texas has one of the highest property tax rates in the country. It's actually number 6 if you go and compare it against the other states, New Jersey being number 1. So property taxes are a big deal, especially in Texas and especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So that's the second thing to understand. Property taxes in Texas are a real deal. The third thing to understand about property taxes is that every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex has a different property tax rate. And we need to understand how that breaks out, right? So there's a city, again, we've done most of the cities at this point. We're going to do all the cities in this particular series, but just know that property taxes, don't think that, hey, I'm good just budgeting 2.8% or whatever the case may be, or 2.2% thinking that that's what the property tax rate is going to be. No, it's going to change city by city. So it's the third thing to know. Now, the fourth thing, and then we'll get into finding the property tax rate. The fourth thing to note is the property tax rate is not just one singular number. No, that would be too easy. That would be too easy. We're actually, it's actually a little bit more, I don't want to say complex, but there's more to it. So when it comes to property taxes, you're looking at different numbers, you're looking at different rates, and you're going to add them together to get your true property tax rate. So in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, there's 3 numbers that you're going to have across every single city. They're going to be different, but these are 3 numbers that you need to find. The city tax rate, which in this case, we're going to look for DeSoto tax rate. The county tax rate, which in this case, we're going to go to Dallas County because that's where DeSoto is. And the ISD tax rate. So here we're going to have DeSoto ISD. Those are 3 numbers come heck or high water, we need to add them together and multiply times the assessed value of our home. Those are 3 numbers we need to know for sure. Now there's 2 additional numbers that oftentimes pop up. And that some people will oftentimes think it's the pit or the mud. And while that is a real thing, mostly towards the suburbs of the area, it is the higher education. So think of community colleges or the hospital network. So think of like Parkland hospital network. Those are 2 additional numbers that you need to know, that you need to make sure that the city that you're going into either has or does not have, because that is going to affect your property tax rate. One quick little recap, then we're going to go in. So those 3 numbers that we look at, come heck or high water, city, county, ISD, we're going to find those. And then sometimes we're going to find a higher education. So think of community colleges or hospital network. Those are 2 numbers we need to know if they happen to be in the state that we're buying, city that we're buying in. So we're going to go back to Google, and I'm going to show you how to find this. We're going to go to DeSoto, Texas, property tax rate. Now, depending on how incredible the city is, we might have a hard time finding it. So here's the thing. DeSoto Development Corporation. This looks like it's the city website, but it actually isn't. So let me go to the city website first and see if they have it. Now, the reason I'm a little bit hesitant, so here's the thing. You're going to go directly to the city first. If you can't find the city, the information that you're looking for in the city, which is not uncommon, unfortunately, they don't make it too easy. You're going to go to the county website. So think of like the Dallas County right here. If you can't find it there, then you're going to go to the third-party websites like over here. Now, the reason I'm even hesitant to go down this DeSoto Development Corporation is because this is not the city one. This is something a little bit different from how I understand it. Now, we've gone through development. What's this called again? Economic development plans, like to its neighbor city. We did Duncanville a couple of weeks ago now, and they had the wrong one. No, we did Cedar Hill and they had the wrong one. So that's why I'm a little gun shy of going on this one, but we're gonna make do. We're gonna assume that this is correct. So it has, what do we have here? We have the city, which is what we need. ISD, which is what we need. Dallas County, what we need. Perfect. You know what? They did a really good job. So kudos to you, DeSoto Development, which I don't think this is the city website, but we're going to use this as it's written. DeSoto. Cool. We're going to use this rate. Which one's the higher? This one's higher. What's the difference? Dallas, DeSoto. Okay. All right. So it'll depend on where you live. If you have Dallas ISD and DeSoto ISD, you're going to see big difference. You're going to see differences, maybe not huge differences. So if you're in DeSoto ISD, you're going to add the city tax, which is what we talked about, the ISD tax, and the county tax. So these 3 numbers we're going to add up. And they've already done the calculation, but just so you see what we were talking about earlier. We talked about the higher education, so we talked about community colleges, and we also talked about hospital network. So here we have Parkland. Now this Dallas County equalization, this is rare. This is ultra rare. So most of them will call that out just so you kind of see. And it's not a huge number to be fair. It's 0.0001%, but it is a number nonetheless. And it is applied over here as well. So as you see, if you're in the DeSoto ISD, and you want to be a state champion, by the way, if you want to be a DeSoto Eagle and win state championships, get into this ISD. If you don't get into this ISD, then I'm not saying Dallas doesn't have champions. You've got right down the road, you've got a you have Oak Cliff. They won state last year and the year before that. So I'm a big high school football fan, and Duncanville, Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Oak Cliff. It's unbelievable football. Unbelievable football, but I digress. Anyway, so the big difference that I was spelling out here is 2.85% versus 2.64%. So for our purposes today, we're going to stay in this ISD because we want championships. That's what we're after. So we're going to say is 2.85%. So here, 2.85%. Now here's where industry knowledge or more local knowledge of what this number even means is important. This is on the higher end of property taxes. I can't beat around the bush. This is among the higher property tax rates that you're going to find in the city or in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. The ranges that we're working with is about 1.5% on the super low end when it comes to property taxes. And on the high end, you're getting to 3%. This is what we would consider on the top end, on the high end of property tax rates. So just to give you a perspective on that. Now, the trade-off here is that the real estate prices, for all intents and purposes, for the home that you're buying and how much it costs, so essentially from the value of the home, you're getting a pretty good deal. You're getting a really good deal from that standpoint, and its proximity to Dallas, central Dallas or downtown Dallas is hard to beat, right? So that's a trade-off that we need to analyze or look at and be serious about. But anyway, that is how you calculate the property tax rates. But what often happens if we're challenged or get told, hey, go and find the property tax rate for DeSoto because we're going to live there. Well, oftentimes the cities will just show you what the city of DeSoto is, or essentially what the city tax rate is, and never mention ISD and never mention county and never mention community college and never mention the rest, to where you're led to believe that it's 0.007%. Which is not right. You're led to believe that it's 0.7%. Yeah, you're led to believe that it's so low, and then boom, when you're getting to the closing table, or when you're doing some getting the the closing disclosure, and you get blindsided with what it actually costs in property taxes. But that's not going to happen to you because you watch this video and you know how to calculate it. Insurance rate. This is an estimate. This is a estimate based off of the value of your home. So essentially what this is doing is 0.75% times the value of the home. It gives us the yearly rate, which we divide by 12, and it gives us the monthly estimated premium. Now the premium can be higher depending on certain factors like the location. If it's in the location where there's a ton of hail damage, it can also be lower if you do not get as much coverage. There's ways to get it higher and get it lower, but for all intents and purposes, this is a reasonable estimate that you're going to see once we click to the third screen or the third tab and find out what it ultimately looks like from a monthly expense. Mortgage insurance. So this goes back to the whole us not putting 20% down. Since we're not putting 20% down, we're going to be paying mortgage insurance. So all we're saying here is that we're doing a conventional loan and it's good credit. We're essentially saying that it's average credit. Yearly HOA fees. In DeSoto, you're not going to run into a lot of HOAs. You're not going to run into a ton of them. So this is going to be one of those rare, and I mean ultra rare, and I mean extremely rare cases where I actually don't even budget that into our purchase, into our search. This doesn't happen. I can count like just a handful of times where I actually don't even worry too much about the HOA. Now, are there homes in HOAs? 1,000,000,000% there are. But with DeSoto, I don't see it as a big, extremely huge issue. So in this particular case, again, ultra rare. I very rarely do this. I've maybe done this 3 to 4 times before in the entire series that we've done. I can only think of Bedford as the only other city that I've done this with. So for HOAs, I'm just going to put $0. Now, if that's going to bother you, add 400, add 500. That's a reasonable amount for the property that we're looking at per year, right? So HOAs, they have to be paid. I'm just not going to budget it into our search because that's how we roll. All right. So we're going to do that. Income tax rate 24. Okay. Yeah. We're not going to do anything with income tax rate. I forget. Yearly gross income. This is where we start putting our numbers into the equation. And this is where we start putting what we actually make. So for our purposes today, we're going to say that we make $80,000. That is our yearly gross income, not factoring in taxes, and it'll factor this on the back end. But for our purposes today, we just need to get a round number into the calculation. That's how we make how much we make per year. Now, what we also need to do here to make this calculation as clean as possible is add the debt. How much debt do we have? Do we have student loans? Do we have child support? Do we have car loans? Do we have credit card payments? We need to add that to this equation. Now, just make sure that you're adding debt, that you're not adding expenses. So don't put your phone bill, don't put gas, food, groceries, rent. Don't put that in here because that's already been factored into what's called the debt to income ratio. Those are expenses. Those are expenses that have already been factored into the overall equation that we're going into. What you do need to add again is your debt. So again, car loans, student loans, credit cards, things like that. So you're just going to add the name of your debt just for your sake, just so you make sure that, hey, I did include this debt. And then the minimum monthly payment. Again, we're doing just the minimum. We're not putting how much we're actually paying in the case that you're actually paying more to get through with the debt a little bit quicker. Just put the minimum monthly payment. Now, if you have a co-borrower, you're going to do the same thing here. Put their income and then also name of the debt and the minimum monthly payment. So you can get a really functional number. Now, again, once you get this, it is linked down below. So once you get this, go to File, make a copy, and it's yours. So just make sure that you make a copy, or else you're not going to be able to modify the one that you're seeing on the screen right now. All right, so with that in mind, we've input market information for the most part, and then we input our financial situation for the most part. Now, we're going to get a calculation of how much we actually need to make in order to purchase a home in DeSoto. So we need to have a number on that third screen, the tab that we're about to go to, that meets the minimum of $400,000. Meaning, once we click over, our max price should be, not saying that it is, I'm just saying like should be $400,000. So if we make $80,000, and if we look on the other screen and there's a $400,000 on the other side of that tab, we're good. But if it's not, we're going to need to come back and ask for a raise. So I'm just prepping you ahead of time. All right, so we're going to go down here and we're going to use this range. Don't worry about this right now. I'm going to show you how to work that. But for our purposes today, the max that we could purchase with the income of $80,000 with the market conditions that exist today is about $306,000. $306,000. So that does not meet the minimum that we want to purchase in DeSoto. Now, are there homes that you could purchase in DeSoto that are under $300,000? Of course there are. We just saw them. But for the type of property that we're looking for, remember we did this based off of using the third quadrant in the Alto's research data. We're using $400,000 as our benchmark. So that means, again, the most that we can purchase is $306,000, and even then it's risky. We're not going to advise any of our clients, and we do this in all of our buyer sessions, we're not going to advise any of our clients to get into a risky loan or what we deem as risky. And we're also not even going to advise them to get into an aggressive loan. We are wanting to do our calculation based off of being the number that we're shooting for, which is $400,000. We need it between a moderate and an aggressive loan. That just seems to be a really good average of where most of our clients end up being. It's not so out of reach where it's super risky, and also not super ultra safe to where they don't get the home that they actually want. To meet these subjective, I'll be transparent, these are subjective categorizations. But with that being said, we need to go back to our boss real quick, because we need the $400,000. We need to be that right here. So this needs to be less than 4, and this needs to be higher than 4. So we're gonna go back to our boss and say, hey boss, I've been really good, and I'm trying to buy a home in DeSoto. Can you hook me up with $20,000 raise? The boss is gonna say, well, all right, well, let me know. And you're gonna see that you're short. So you're gonna say, well, boss, remember when you said let me know? I'm gonna let you know that I need a little bit more of a raise. So we're gonna go up one more and say, hey, I think 110 might do it. So let's see if you can give me a raise for that amount. And boom, that is it. So here, that $400,000 that we're trying to reach, remember that's the number that we're trying to work towards, if we make $110,000 based off of the criteria that we have, the market information that we have today, we would be able to purchase a home in DeSoto and fall within the desired risk tolerance, if you will. So here we know that it's going to be about $400,000 and our monthly payment is going to be somewhere in between. So I'm going to show you what the monthly payment would look like here shortly. But as far as our objective today of how much you need to make in order to purchase a home in DeSoto today, given market conditions today, you're looking at $110,000. That is our final answer. So with that being said, let me show you what a $400,000 purchase price looks like from a monthly payment, down payment, estimated closing costs, and how the actual numbers break out. So I need to make this number be $400,000. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to say that we now make $155,000. We're close, so I need to force that number to be a little bit closer. Oh, why did I do that? It was supposed to be. All right, it's a little bit more. So 1725. Just because I'm so close. I got further, didn't I? All right, I'm trying to be too cute with it. That's close enough. We're going to say this is $400,000 even. So if we're buying a home for $400,000 in DeSoto, we would need $20,000 as a down payment if we're doing 5% down. Now, of course, if you do more, like 10% down, well, that's going to be twice. It's going to be $40,000. Closing costs, you're looking at about $10,000 in closing costs, just to give you an idea of what that would look like. So the total payment right now, you're looking at about $4,000 a month payment for a $400,000 home. Remember, again, the market conditions based off of when you're watching this video and the math that you come out with based off of what's happening in your market at this present time, you're going to be able to adjust this. But for our purposes today, if we're buying a $400,000 home based off of the math that we have, you're looking at about $4,000. Now, principal and interest comes out to about $2,600. So that means that the principal, which is how much you borrowed, plus the interest that you now have, how much you're paying for that loan, is about $2,600. In property taxes, you're almost paying $1,000. So take note of that. I know for some of us, we're thinking, oh, property taxes, they're so high, it's a scam. And you know what? I can't say no. I can't say no. I can't say that I disagree. Nobody enjoys paying property taxes. But at the end of the day, this is the game that we're playing right now. So when it comes to property taxes, what's important for us to know is outside of just complaining, which is onto something that you're not going to be able to change, how about getting the right information so you know how much you're going to be paying, and then making the decision, do I really want to be in DeSoto, which has some higher property taxes, or can I go a little bit further south and find another city that might not have as high of a property tax rate? That's something that you can control. So for our purposes today, again, you're looking at about $950 in property taxes. This is actually a little bit on the conservative side, given that your assessed value is probably going to be under $400,000. Now, that opens up another can of worms of assessed value versus market value, which is what we're calculating off of right now, which is market value. But just brace yourself. The property taxes are actually going to be a little bit lower than this, but not terribly lower than this. Don't think this number is going to go down to 100. That's not going to happen. Homeowners insurance, this is a rough estimate of the premium that you can expect. Again, it can go higher, it can go lower. It's going to depend on a few different factors, but your homeowners insurance roughly is going to be about $250 a month. Your mortgage insurance, remember, we didn't put 20% down to purchase a home because we didn't need to, but the trade-off is that we're paying mortgage insurance on that. So we're paying about $190 of mortgage interest every single month. So if we have a conventional loan, it's going to eventually fall off. If we have a FHA loan, that stays with it until you end up paying off the home. And since we didn't factor in an HOA, we don't have a number here, but just as a heads up, even if you had an HOA, we show this number here just so you see it, but it's not part of your mortgage payment. You pay your HOA at the beginning of the year. and you pay it directly to the HOA. This is not part of your servicing company, or you're not paying the mortgage servicing company. You're not paying this in your mortgage. That's something you pay independently. Now, one last thing that I want to show you is if you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see different scenarios. So when you're in the heat of battle and you're thinking, hey, should I offer more or should I offer less based off of the math that we've already done, you get to see the breakdown here, right? So you get to see, hey, if I offer 5% less on this home that is listed at $400,000, what does my down payment look like? What does my closing cost look like? What will my monthly payment look like? This will instantly give you this number, which is what you're seeing right now. That way you don't have to do a lot of paper, just, redo all your calculations, write everything down on paper. That becomes a jumbled mess. So as always, folks, if you found any value in this particular video, please feel free to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, because we do live streams Sundays and Wednesdays and do these breakdowns on the cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We've done a ton of these live streams already. So we're going to cover all cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So very, 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 very soon, we're actually going to go into another series. So be on the lookout for that, because we're running out of cities to cover. So if you have a suggestion on a city that we need to cover next, let me know in the comment section down below. Again, don't forget to like, comment, share, or subscribe, whatever floats your boat. Outside of that, if we can be of any service to you in buying or selling in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in Texas, or really across the country, because we have agents everywhere, let me know. Happy to have that conversation with you. And as always, feel free to grab the link down below for our buyer discovery call if you want to have a conversation of what the math would look like in your specific situation. We would love to do that for you. That's it. Thank you. That was a terrible sign off, but see you on the next one. Thank you all so much.